I'm going to go to every road game, no matter what, like whether I'm playing or not.
No matter where the Indiana Fever go, Caitlin Clark has always said she'll be there, whether she's on the court or not. But just moments ago, shocking news shook the basketball world to its core, as reports claim the unstoppable rookie who has electrified the WNBA may be walking away from the game entirely in a move so sudden and dramatic that fans are scrambling for answers, teammates are stunned into silence, and the league itself is bracing for an impact that could shatter everything it's built. Because if Caitlin Clark were to step away, now it wouldn't just be the Fever losing their heartbeat, it would be a seismic blow felt from Indianapolis to every corner of the sporting world, threatening ticket sales, sponsorships, television ratings, and the very momentum that's made her the face of women's basketball. And while the headlines are screaming about a mysterious turning point, the real question is whether this is the result of hidden locker room tension, relentless pressure from critics, or something so personal it could rewrite her legacy forever. So let's break it all down right now, because what you're about to hear will change how you see Caitlin Clark's entire career. From the very first moment she stepped into the WNBA, Caitlin Clark didn't just join the Indiana Fever, she became their lifeline. Their reason to believe, again, their one-woman spark capable of turning an empty arena into a sold-out spectacle. And in just one rookie season, she dragged a franchise out of a 7-year playoff drought, posted stats that most veterans spend a decade chasing, and transformed women's basketball from a niche headline into a must-watch cultural event. With her 19 points, 8 assists, and nearly 6 rebounds a night becoming the heartbeat of the league. But as impressive as those numbers are, they only tell part of the story because her arrival sent ticket sales skyrocketing more than 400%, forced the Fever to abandon smaller venues entirely, and packed Gamebridge Fieldhouse night after night with a kind of energy that television networks couldn't ignore, driving ratings past the million-viewer mark on a regular basis and even hitting 2 million for key matchups. A surge that corporate America rushed to capitalize on, with major sponsorships built entirely around her image, turning her into a revenue machine that the WNBA had never seen before. And yet, behind the smiling highlight reels and record-breaking crowds, the pressures of becoming the league's most valuable asset so quickly were already beginning to stack up in ways the public never saw. Because what most fans don't realize is that behind every sold-out arena, every spike in television ratings, and every sponsorship announcement is a system that wasn't built for someone like Caitlin Clark. A league structure locked in by an outdated collective bargaining agreement that caps salaries at a fraction of what she's worth, binding rookies to rigid contracts with team options and restricted free agency clauses that strip away their freedom to move, renegotiate, or truly cash in on the value they create. And while her marketability is generating millions for the WNBA in ticket sales, merchandise, and corporate deals, her player paycheck still sits at a figure that pales in comparison to the revenue she brings in, leaving her in a position where she is both the league's biggest draw and its most underpaid star. A contradiction that doesn't just hit her bank account, but chips away at her sense of control over her own career. Because unlike in other major leagues where a superstar can push for a trade or a new contract, here she's trapped in a system that thrives on her image while giving her almost no leverage to change her situation. And that imbalance is the quiet storm brewing beneath the surface of her meteoric rise. And while the money gap is enough to frustrate any elite athlete, the real weight pressing down on Caitlin Clark goes far beyond the numbers. Because being the face of an entire league means carrying a level of scrutiny few in women's sports have ever experienced, where every pass, every shot, and even every offhand comment is dissected by analysts, debated by strangers online, and magnified across social media within seconds. And that spotlight doesn't turn off when the buzzer sounds. It follows her into every corner of her life, from airports to restaurants to moments with her family, demanding not only flawless performance on the court, but also flawless composure off it. And when you combine that with the physical demands of a grueling schedule and the mental exhaustion of constant media attention, it's no wonder that whispers of alternative paths have started to surface, because overseas leagues in Europe, Australia, and beyond are offering not just higher salaries, but housing, travel perks, and a little more breathing room away from the relentless American spotlight, tempting her with the possibility of keeping her career at the highest level while escaping the cage that the WNBA's rigid structure has built around her. But the question isn't just whether Caitlin Clark could thrive somewhere else, it's what it would mean for the WNBA if she actually took that leap, because based on her measurable impact, the ticket sales she's driven, the record television ratings she's delivered, the merchandise she's moved, and the sponsorship dollars she's attracted, her true annual value easily stretches into the millions. Yet, the league that's riding her wave is still paying her a fraction of that worth. And while outside endorsements help fill the gap, they don't change the fact that she's locked into a rookie deal designed to keep her tied down with almost no say in her future, a contract filled with team options and restricted free agency clauses that leave her unable to force a trade, negotiate freely, or explore bigger paydays elsewhere. And it's this very imbalance, the league cashing in on the Clark effect while keeping her trapped in outdated terms, that has legal analysts calling her situation unprecedented, because she's not just another star player, she's the brand, the storyline, and the profit margin. And the more she realizes the depth of that truth, the more one question keeps getting louder in her mind. Why should the most valuable player in women's basketball stay silent while everyone else gets paid? By the summer of 2025, Caitlin Clark wasn't just the star of the Indiana Fever, she was their entire identity. The face plastered across billboards, the headline in every sports segment, the reason casual fans tuned in and arenas sold out. But that spotlight, as dazzling as it appeared from the outside, carried a heat that few could withstand, because she wasn't only expected to dominate on the court, she was also expected to be the league's top ambassador, spokesperson, and symbol of progress all at once. And that meant every interview, every social media post, and every public appearance was tied to the WNBA's broader narrative, making her wins feel like league victories and her struggles feel like league setbacks, which is a weight no stat sheet can measure. And inside the Fever organization, the shift was just as intense. The marketing team, ticket office, and sponsorship department had all rebuilt their strategies around her name. A move that boosted the franchise, but also created subtle tension in team dynamics. Because when one player becomes the gravitational center of an entire operation, it can strain relationships with teammates, coaches, and even executives. And as Clark balanced the pressure to lead with the need to protect her own mental and physical well-being, the question kept growing. Was the organization truly built to support her unique position, or was it just built to maximize the benefits of her fame? And the longer she carried that weight, the clearer it became that staying in this role might mean sacrificing too much of herself for the sake of the game, because by 2025, Caitlin Clark had evolved from a rising rookie into a living benchmark for what women's basketball could be. Yet, the league policies, contract restrictions, and decision-making structures shaping her career weren't evolving fast enough to match her ambitions, forcing her to operate inside a system she hadn't designed and didn't fully agree with, all while watching the sports world outside the WNBA explode with new opportunities, bigger sponsorships, and global expansion. And thanks to her massive online following, millions of fans who didn't just watch her games but followed her every move. She knew she now had the power to create her own path, launching independent projects, partnering directly with brands, and building a career without asking permission from the league office. And while the endorsement deals flooding her table were often worth more than her entire playing salary, the real appeal was the freedom they offered. Freedom from outdated salary caps, from rigid contracts, and from the constant pressure of being the league's lifeline. But stepping away would mean more than a career change, it would mean redefining her entire legacy. Because by mid-2025, Caitlin Clark wasn't just a basketball player, she was the crown jewel of women's sports, the living emblem of the WNBA's rise. And every game she played, every statement she made, and every public move she took was treated like a referendum on the health and future of the league, which meant the obligations went far beyond the three-point line, stretching into endless corporate events, sponsorship shoots, youth clinics, charity galas, halftime interviews, and autograph sessions. with cameras tracking her everywhere from sold-out arenas to airports to quiet dinners with friends, turning her life into a constant performance where even her personal moments could be dissected online within minutes. And while the trophies, accolades, and headlines were proof of her impact, they couldn't replace the family milestones missed, the celebrations skipped, and the long stretches away from the people who kept her grounded, because the deeper truth was that the business realities were now pulling her in one direction, while her happiness and mental well-being were quietly pulling her in another. And as opportunities in media, tech, and global sports business began calling her name, the WNBA faced a terrifying possibility that its brightest star might decide the game was no longer worth the cost. And that's why in private conversations with those closest to her, the real fear wasn't just whether Caitlin Clark might walk away. It was what her departure would signal to the entire sports world, because losing her wouldn't simply mean the WNBA was down one superstar. It would be a flashing neon sign that the league couldn't retain the very talent it built its future around. And for Clark, the equation was becoming brutally clear. On one side, a system that kept her bound by outdated contracts, capped salaries, and relentless obligations that drained her energy. On the other, a world of opportunities offering more money, more control, and more freedom to shape her career on her own terms. And as the gap between her value and her reward grew wider, the whispers about her next move grew louder, leaving fans, teammates, and even league executives wondering whether the face of women's basketball was preparing to step off the court entirely, not because she couldn't handle the competition, but because she refused to keep playing a game where everyone else was cashing in on her name, while she was still waiting for the league to catch up to her worth. So now the question hanging over the WNBA isn't just whether Caitlin Clark will suit up next season. It's whether the league can evolve fast enough to keep its biggest star from walking away. Because if she decides to step off the court, the ripple effect will be felt in every ticket office, every sponsorship boardroom, and every television network that has built its coverage around her. And it will force an uncomfortable truth into the spotlight that in women's sports, even the most groundbreaking talent can still be boxed in by outdated rules and undervalued by the very system they've elevated. And for Clark, the choice is no longer just about basketball. It's about control, freedom, and the life she wants to build, beyond the noise. Because when the face of a league starts questioning whether the game is worth the cost, it's not just a personal crossroads, it's a warning sign for the entire sport. And whatever move she makes next will either lock her legacy into the WNBA's history forever, or prove that the brightest stars shine even brighter when they decide to write their own story.